But yes, well, the other D word, which is diversity, they don't like that either at TikTok. But speaking, since we're talking transparently, the city of Virginia Beach public schools decided to essentially cancel all language and programming of diversity, equity, and inclusion in Virginia Beach schools in the practically the dead of night. I mean, it was a normal school board meeting, but they added it to the agenda the same day. They voted to move it to action, which means to vote on it the same day. I mean, it was just a freight train.
And there was 2 school board members out.
Yep, 2, one on bereavement, one out of the country.
There was, they already had, they already had a majority, but, they just had an overwhelming majority at that.
They had it was 6-3 basically.
And you see, I've since seen the posts from some of the other school board members, people like Matt Cummings, people like is Alveda Green, is that correct?
Alveda Green, yeah.
They have made posts. This was forced through over the objections of other school board members, not necessarily because they disagree. They do disagree on different things, but they also, on a fundamental purpose, thought that we should have public comment on this sort of thing, especially because
without any public notice, without any opportunity for public comment, and I know. I have some feelings.
Right. Well, listen, let's just start with Kathleen Brown, who's the chair. Okay. Let's just this woman is the face of the responsibility for this. Okay. Because Kathleen Brown is the chair of the school board. Middle of the presentation, middle of discussion, the superintendent's chief of staff notifies the school board attorney that there is an extension
until April 24th
until April 24th, until after the next school board meeting. And as a matter of fact, that information came out when Matt Cummings had submitted he basically he made a motion to call a special session Thursday. And midway, because that's not going to go over well, because the school board, more than half that school board does not want to report for duty but twice a month.
If that.
They prefer better. So basically, they're midway through discussion on this. They found out about this extension. And so then it was discussed, the next planned school board meeting is April 22nd. This should be deferred to April 22nd. The 2 other board members will be present. The public will have had time to read the resolution, to process it, and to give feedback, and to come give public comment on April 22nd.
And you see, the thing that really strikes me most about this is the deadline in general, and how much legitimacy and authority that the school board and even us in this conversation give an arbitrary deadline, a demand, a mandate from a federal agency, from the state government. And I just want to bring up, especially in the history and the context of public schools, do we all not remember how difficult it was to get these school boards to integrate, to fight segregation? Here they get a tepid letter from the state and it's, oh my gosh, we have to comply immediately before anyone can even talk about it. Or we have to stop diversity. We can do that in a heartbeat when we actually try to implement diversity, when we try to actually integrate schools here in Virginia Beach, across Virginia. There are some counties in Virginia that did not integrate until the 90s.
Virginia closed schools after integration, after Brown v. Board, they closed 500 schools for 5 years in Virginia. Virginia did not want to integrate at all with the schools. And what's crazy to me right now is that these same fools that come and speak at these school board, these conservatives that come speak at these school board meetings, and they're like, don't tell me what to do. I don't co-parent with the government.
They want to co-parent with the government because they want the government to police their children's gender and give them a phone call to tell them what's going on with their kids.
And they literally don't want, they're like, we don't need federal money. Oh, well, clearly we do, because now all of the, that's what's pissing me off is the conservatives get to hide. They get to hide behind, oh, we can't afford to lose the federal funding. So we got to do this. So they get to hide their bigotry.
It's the Nuremberg.
It's
the Nuremberg defense.
It's literally Nuremberg.
I got to do what I was told to do.
Yep.
But my point here is about the legitimacy and authority. It's really important. There is no legitimacy to this other than an executive order and the interpretation of Jason Miyares. And as far as that, it's two people who decided that. But when we were talking about Brown v. Board of Education, that is a Supreme Court decision that had legal legitimacy and authority that different school boards, different state entities fought tooth and nail. Right now, what we need, and I'm speaking directly to the Virginia Beach City Public Schools legal director, their attorney. They have to understand that what the light that they're standing in is malicious compliance. They do not have to comply with an unlawful order, a law that they know is in direct contravention to the Virginia Values Act and other federal, state statutes and law, which have not been repealed, have not been challenged to the Supreme Court, do not have any legal legitimacy. And if you have passed the bar, you understand what an executive order is and what a mandate given from the Attorney General is. And if you did lose federal funding, you should be willing to sue. You should be in contact with other school boards because we need to have a mass class action lawsuit so we actually defend the funding. Because if you're going to give up this funding, not only is it going to hurt our kids, not only are you pushing back progress, you are complying against diversity when there were people, your predecessors, who were fighting tooth and nail for generations to keep diversity from happening.
Correct.
It is a weak, spineless position, legally indefensible. It will cost our city in the long term so much more money, so much wasting our resources and time, it's going to translate to worse outcomes for students. And all they have to do is show a little bit of the backbone they did for racism, for discrimination, except in the direction of defending diversity,
but they're
equity, and inclusion.
racist, so they don't want to. That's why it was a 6-3 vote, because these people were chomping at the bit. They were so happy. They were so happy to rush this through. And that, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that, and that's the thing. They're going to be super happy to rush this through and all of that. And this is what I want people to really hear this, right? This isn't a judgment on anybody, but I just want people to really understand is I wasn't surprised that this happened.
No.
I was at this school board meeting to speak on this topic because I knew they would try and do this or something like this. And it's really great that we're going to have a huge rally at the next school board meeting. That's exciting. That won't be enough.
It won't be enough.
That won't be anything.
No.
We could have stopped this from happening if people were there talking about it before. If people had never stopped talking about it. If people had done less hoping that they would come to sense, and less hoping that a lawyer would speak up, and less hoping that somebody else would fix it. If people had done less of that and done more of showing up, we wouldn't be where we are now. And we will not get any better. We will only continue to get worse if people show up one time from now and hope that changes their mind. If people have one party and one shout and hope they were heard and go back to their regular lives and hope that it changes. It will not change. We will continue to be at the will of this administration and these unlawful executive orders and all of the consequences of them. That will just continue to happen unless people en masse, the people that are upset about this, the people that this is affecting, unless they continue to show up, not just next school board meeting, but every other single school board meeting and every other single place that they can until it changes. Because if you don't stop until after the change is not going to happen.
That's right.
Right now, it has to be resist until revolution. It really can't be anymore. I showed up and gave my opinion, and it has to be everybody. Every time, we are just going to keep losing.
Yes, 100%. And I was kind of surprised. So I already had my post I put it on Facebook because with the school board stuff, it tends to get the most traction for me. And I had a copy of the resolution. So I went ahead and they're still in discussion, but I already know how this vote is going to go. I know it's 6-3. I know who's voting for it. And I already have it typed out and sent before they even finished voting on that. And I was right. Well, I tagged the chair of the school board. And I tagged the other 2 members of the school board that also have Facebooks. 2 of them don't. And that post, the last I checked, had 79 shares. I have never, ever had a Facebook post have 79 shares. I then shared it into some moms groups. And now we have an event. And I have said, I want a Cory Booker style event on April 22nd. And I honestly, every 2 weeks thereafter, I know that people will not continue to participate at that level the way Cody and I do, but that is honestly what's necessary. I will tell you that the school board chair is 100% feeling the heat because this is 100% her fault. And and listen, it was a gift. It was an honest gift in some ways, what they did. Because one of the things I said to the couple school board members I spoke to today was, I wholly 1,000% disagree with what you're doing, but I can't say much except for I know you're going to do it, and it was technically due by the 11th. And so I can't really argue on the same day, same whatever, because I know that the school board chair is not going to just miss the deadline. Okay. But what you did, though, was you publicly displayed that you do not care about transparency. You do not care about the public having proper notice and an opportunity to have input. And what's hilarious, Kathleen Brown, is that I will be going back into the 2020 and 2021 and 2022 school board meetings before you won your election. And I will be clipping all the times you were skewering the school board for their lack of transparency. And those words are going to be echoing in your head and all over social media because she's in a minority opportunity district. That is what is so disgusting about this on top of it, was you didn't even give your own constituents an opportunity when you had it to actually give them that opportunity. You had that opportunity. You didn't have to do a special session. You could have just left it for a vote on the 22nd. You're like, it's getting really close to the deadline, because you can take cover in your racism under that. And so then I got an employee. Well, let me show you. Let me just tell you how it actually does get impacted, because an employee, I got a text message. It says, so interestingly enough, our AP, assistant principal, was walking around the building today, their school, making sure that there was nothing posted about the 2025 framework for VBCPS, because none of it can be displayed anymore after the vote. So I guess they're going to have to spend a bunch of money coming up with a brand new framework that doesn't have the word equity in it. I checked the website and it is still up on there, but buildings have been told to remove anything that says equity or diversity in relating to the BBCPS framework.
And see, and that's the thing is they'll frame this under, well, it just says you can't have anything that that won't allow people to participate because of their race. But what does that have to do with removing the word equity from everything?
Correct.
What does that have to do with removing anything that refers to diversity?
Inclusion.
What does that have to do with removing anything that has to do with inclusion?
Right. Who do you want to exclude?
You know, you're not providing evidence that any of these things have excluded anybody.
Right. Correct.
What you've done is you've allowed somebody to make these words bad.
Yep.
And everything that could possibly
My feelings get hurt.
Everything that could possibly be associated with these words bad, even the really good things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then it's
right. I know. Well, and so then today, so they rushed this through, right? They rushed this through. Now, okay, so and then today, ACLU nationwide comes out and says, we've reached an agreement with the Department of Education that ensures no school district is required to certify the government's vague ban on, quote, in quotation, illegal DEI before a court rules on the legality of the requirements by April 24th. So now...
They didn't have legitimacy or authority. I was right. They need a court to actually give them some sort of authority.
They need the court to rule on the legality.
They need standing to be proved.
They need standing to prove that this is not that this is lawful, which we all know it's not. But so now VBCPS is facing a lawsuit with 100% certainty, because I spoke to said someone today who knows this, that lawsuit will be filed if they do not reverse this resolution, because they're out of compliance. They have now signed a resolution that has been stripped, diversity, equity, inclusion, which is they're violating Title VI right now because they're stripping all of this from the schools. They're literally breaking the law right now.
Yeah. And you see, this is what happens when you comply in advance.
Yep.
You believe you're going to be safe. You believe that, I'm complying with the big, bad, strong guy. But here's the thing about it.
No,
there's no right way
political.
to do the wrong thing. I hate to steal your word, Cody.
No, but also this is political. This isn't even about complying. Because had Biden done that, had done something, you know what I mean? Like, they would be pushing back tooth and nail. Like, the reality is this is 100% political. They did this because it fits their political narrative and their goals. And that is why they did this. They don't give any shits about the legality of this. They don't give any shits. They just are like, oh, perfect. Our political leader, who is more important than our justice system and our children, has said that we need to do this. And then this is a little bit of a sidebar, but the White House, issued a thing about National Child Abuse Month. And as a survivor myself of child abuse, it is physically nauseating for the White House to have actually put gender ideology in there as a form of abuse and the focus of child abuse, when that is not just patently false, but for survival. So I'm so worked up over this. Survivors of physical abuse, like I endured, emotional abuse, like I endured, sexual abuse that many people endured
just
at the hands of
their, all of the actual real abuses.
Ignoring the real abuses. And just for your political points, all of this is disgusting. And all of these, people that we were talking about, David Culpepper is the one in District 8 that in y'all's district that put forth this resolution. But David Culpepper is not running. He's not going to run again. He can barely do the job now. So he's literally the fall guy for anything controversial for them because like all of the other people for the most part, except for Carolyn Williams, she's not running again either, need to save face. So this is why we need involvement. This is why we need people paying attention. This is why we need people to show up because believe it or not, it does help seeing new faces. They don't give a shit about Cody's face, my face, Thea's face. They don't. We can come up there and we can, Cody and I, when we talk to the school board, we're not even talking to the school board. We're talking to the audience, right? We're just hoping that somebody out there hears something and maybe we, that listens, we can, just give them something to think about, right? Or I go just to be mean to these people because I like hate half of them. But like, we need more people because they think that people will forget about this. They think that in a year and a half when they run for their seat again, that, we won't remember because they'll flood the zone with some other bullshit for a distraction. And we need to know that we're not doing that.
Yeah. And I mean, like you say, it's a gift that they did it. It raises the level of necessity, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it is, because when you say that they think people will forget about it a year and a half from now, they will.
They will.
They will. When they came for the trans kids in our schools and the LGBTQ kids in our schools, when they came for the books in our schools and did the book review committee and all of those things, when they did it, when they made the decision to do it, people didn't keep fighting.
No. Some of us did.
Some of us did.
Some of us still here.
But the people that were there for a couple meetings and big rallies, they moved on and they forgot about it. No, there's nothing we can do. This is just the way it is now. And that's how this happens. That's how this happens. That's how we...
I don't want to argue against what you're saying, because you're right. What you're saying is 100% true. But on that particular issue, I have to give it up to the students, to the parents,
Yes.
the people that did show up for how many months, how many years of that sort of stuff. And this isn't to say that it's not efficacious to show up and do those sorts of things. It's to say that we need to have that sustained pressure because they're going to keep doing it. They're not going to stop. And no matter what they do, we have to keep our pressure up because history
we
is on
have
us
to be
at this
just
moment.
as determined or more determined and persistent than they are being.
Oh, yeah.
And nothing against the people that have shown up, especially the kids. I idolize those kids.
Oh my God.
A lot of them have moved on to college and all of those things. And I also understand that public speaking is the number 2 fear. But we really need to start doing things afraid. Those kids that showed up, I love those kids. And I'm sure those kids have great parents. I would have loved to see the parents of those 21 kids show up every week.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
All right. I love the rest of our community that shows up when called. But the call is constant now, and I need them to understand that.
Yep.
I need them to understand that the call is constant.
The bat signal is literally always on.
That even if they've finished their last thing, the next thing's coming.
Yeah.
And you can't wait for it to happen anymore and react to it. And I'm saying this because I love these people. Because these terrible things are going to keep happening to these people. If they don't start showing up every time now.
Well, like even Utah. Like Utah gave the finger to the administration about this.
Yeah.
Utah. Now, Utah's rich. Utah, all them white people out there, those Mormons, they can afford to lose federal funding.
Some of them can.
Well, and I mean, Utah's a state. I mean, between the Mormon church and the state, which is basically the Mormon church, 100% they could afford to lose.
Oh
federal
yeah,
funding.
I'm just saying if you go to Salt Lake City, there's a line drawn down Salt Lake City.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah,
the
no, no,
Mormon
for
side
sure.
of town and the rest,
Yeah, for sure. But
where the kids live on the trams and like where there's homelessness
Oh, no, no,
prevalent
no.
and there's
Yeah,
all sorts of
100
yeah.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. But Utah financially is in a position to if a school district lost federal funding in Utah, even in Salt Lake City, the state would pick it up.
You see, that's the thing. I saw Youngkin come out and he made that statement about how the Virginia Department of Education is prepared to take on all this sort of. And I was just thinking to myself, is this the same Youngkin who like messed up the Department of Education's budget like a year or two ago to like $200 million and like underfunded
Yeah,
the.
yeah.
Okay, cool.
$300 million from the schools. Yeah, yeah. He told that was his first year. And then
now
also,
he's just ready to take it over.
No, but he's bullshit. He's anti-DEI. And so the fact that he's anti-DEI, so no, he's not. He's going to be like, if any school district in the state of Virginia that doesn't comply, he would not authorize state funds to go to that school district to oppose DEI. He would tell that individual school district that, yeah, like we'd be on our own because these are individual school districts. So there's 131 school districts in Virginia. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The majority, according to the superintendent, supposedly, the majority of the schools are just signing this paper and not doing shit about it. They're just signing it, saying they did the thing, and then sending it in and then letting it figure itself out or whatever.
Counting on them to be
Counting
inept.
on them to be inept. You know? And so, but our district, no. They had to, and not only did they
had to immediately suspend the Equity in Education Policy 5-4.
Yeah. And our equity dashboard off the website, gone. It was gone yesterday. 404, page not found.
Jeez.
And so our school board, that's what is the thing, is that they were like,
This is our chance.
This is our chance. Our chance. Do it. Rip it all out right now. So if you are in Virginia Beach and you are listening, I need you to show up to 2512 George Mason Boulevard on April 22nd at 5:45 p.m. We might actually do a rally at 5 o'clock, but at the latest, 5:45 p.m.
And at every school board meeting after that,
And
if
at
you
every
want diversity,
school board-
equity, and inclusion in your schools.
That's right. Every 2 weeks after that, basically. So yeah, no, like we absolutely, this is just going to continue to get worse. This kind of capitulation so early is so dangerous. School districts are facing it everywhere. This is not like Virginia Beach is not unique.
Yeah,
so
if you're not in Virginia Beach and your school board hasn't already told Golden Calf to go F himself, then you need to be at your school board
meeting. You need to be talking
you
to your
need to be
school
at them
board
now.
people. Yep.
And I mean, it's just I get it. There's a lot of people out there right now. I don't watch the news. I'm not involved in politics. I don't pay attention to that stuff. That just means important things are happening to you without you knowing it, without you having any control over it.
I mean,
all of the time.
If you're not at the, you are not at the table, you are on the menu.
That's
Period.
exactly right. Next time you show up to the grocery store and you're wondering why the bill is so much higher than it was, remember that you weren't paying attention. Next time, something happened, your mom, your dad, your grandparents, yourself, your Social Security check doesn't show up, your Medicare coverage doesn't happen. Just remember you weren't paying attention.
Yeah. Oh, I actually have a funny story about that. So I was in DC for a federal rally on Tuesday, and I went to the Polestar dealership because they're offering $20,000 credits to Tesla
Oh, really?
owners.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
And the only Polestar, it's a Swedish company, Volvo company, right? The only Polestar dealership is in DC. So I was like, well, I'm going to be at the ACLU Federal Workers Rally, helping Marshall. So I asked my road dog, like, hey, do you mind if, like, on the way out, we just, like, swing by the dealership so I can check out the Polestar, maybe take a test drive. So I do all the things, okay? And I'm talking to the two sales guys, very nice guys. And now we're in DC, okay? So I feel very safe saying what I'm going to say, you know, like anything about, like, my swastika or, like, whatever. Because, you know, I'm in DC. Like, literally 98% of the people that live in and work in DC are, you know, center left. So I want the Polestar 4. And I can't have it because they said they're all sitting at the port right now because of the tariff bullshit. And they said, so you can only buy a Polestar 3. Well, I'm literally the worst person to say this to. Like, don't tell me I can't have something because it's the thing that I want. And it legit is I want the Polestar 4. It has no back window, like no back windshield. It's so cool. I'm in love with it. And I was like, it's cool, man. Like, I'm not going to sweat it, you know, like I'm pretty easy. Like I just have to kind of decide, do I like, what do I want to do? Do I want to wait or whatever? And the guy was like, you know, like, I really appreciate that because, man, some people are just like not being understanding of that right now. And I looked at him and I was like, I know that you can't say this because obviously your job, but like, I would have a hard time not looking at those people going, well, who did you vote for? Because that's the why.
Oh, yeah.
Who did you vote for?
Nope.
Right?
I in my job, I work with the government. Right? And people that work in the government. I interact with them frequently. And once a week, they have to send out, I did this, please don't fire me.
They fucking do.
All of them, yeah. And every 2 weeks, they get an offer to resign. Yeah.
And did any of those people said that they voted for them?
And guess what? Guess what I asked some of them.
Okay, yep. Who did you vote for?
The ones that I know.
Who did you vote for?
Who did you vote for? Because I know they voted for because we'd had conversations before.
But I want you to just say it out loud so I can get the satisfaction of hearing you say that you voted for this. What do they say when you ask them?
Oh, those ones don't really talk to me anymore.
They don't talk.
They've seen me on the news and other places, and but they're very upset about it. Some of them are they're very upset about it. Okay. Because many of them, you know, regardless of our differences of politics or anything like that between any of them, you know, many of them worked very hard. Yeah,
of course.
To get the jobs that they have.
Of course. You mean they're not DEI?
No. Many of them served in the military and served our country prior to then going into the government and serving our country.
Okay, yeah, again. Civil service, yeah.
And so they don't want to retire. They're not trying to resign. This was the job that they worked for and were going to.
This is where their second career, so they could get a second retirement, a second pension, and they set that up for themselves, and they are very happy to have done that, and that's great.
And the whole idea, let me just, anybody watching right now, let me just make it very clear, this whole idea that they're going to do more with less, no. What they're doing with less is less.
You know, that story reminds me of something that I heard from a World War II historian. TikTok, a lot of the historians have been coming out. Oh, yeah. They were talking about the concentration camps, folks that were actually in the camps, and how a lot of the folks in those camps were actually Nazi supporters, people who voted for Hitler, who were supporters of Hitler, and how they had this mentality, this mindset that was like, this was a mistake. I wasn't supposed to be here. Like, everyone else here is supposed to be here, but I'm not supposed to be here. Right up in, like, while they were in incarcerated while they were being
until the end.
right up until the end. So there's a sort of thing that I think for some of these people, they're waking up. For some of them, they never will. And if anything, they're going to double, triple down on blaming immigrants, on blaming diversity hires, on blaming other people that they see succeed, regardless of race or what. And I think that that's the sort of thing, the elitism, the anti-elitism, the sort of stuff that goes into some anti-Semitism, into anti-intellectualism, into all of these different things that we see flourishing. And it's really sad.
Yeah. There's even now, they're not thinking it all the way through. I had somebody, brief interaction, and they were like, well, we're just going to end up bringing all of those things back and we're going to make them in the USA. And what I've started to say to people is like, okay, that would be great, right? If everything was made in the USA. And yeah, it would be. And I was like, cool. So we're talking about it. What is the reason why people don't buy the made in the USA stuff now? Well, because, it costs less to make it over there. I was like, yeah, so it costs more, right? We don't buy it now because it costs more, right?
And that was back then, by the way.
And yeah, because it ends up costing more. I'm like, cool. So if we bring those jobs back, do you think people in America are going to work for less, like you're saying, that makes things cost less? Oh, no, people aren't going to work for that. And I'm like, so it's not going to cost less to make them here? No. So we're just going to take everything and make it as expensive as the most expensive thing on the shelf that nobody buys. So regardless of whether it's made here or comes back here or whatnot, what you've done at your level, because you're not going to be making money off the manufacturing, right? No, so you don't own the manufacturing company. So at your level, you're just buying the things, right? Yeah. So you've just made all of the things that you bought more expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, and that's really assuming that the companies bring the stuff back, because let's say the company spends, 3, 4, 5 years from now or whatever, brings the manufacturing back. Do you want to go work for 15 hours in a manufacturing job for $15 an hour? No, I'm not going to do that. Would you do it for 17? No.
Right.
No, you're not. And that's currently actually the problem that we have 4 million possible employees and we have 6 million jobs now. We're still 2 million employees short of filling the jobs that we have.
Yep.
If we forced everybody that we have into a job.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we brought more jobs that nobody's going to work, who's going to fill them? And how exactly then is the stuff going to get made here?
They just don't think that far ahead. Like,
here's the next step too. Okay, let's say we bring it here and we make 6 million Chryslers. We all of a sudden we have. If the American people can't afford to buy the Chryslers, which we won't, because our standard of living is going down, our workers are not going to be able to afford the goods they actually are being paid to manufacture in the system. You think China's going to buy 6 million Chryslers? You think Japan is lining up?
Nobody's
you think
gonna buy
Germany is going to buy our Chryslers?
We are literally about to be isolated.
Yeah, by the time we get anything manufactured here, by the time we bring that back, China and the other major global economic powers will have worked their supply chains completely around our dumbasses.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And we will be cut off. And shortly afterwards, we will stop being the world currency. And the value of the dollar will plummet, and then we'll see inflation like we haven't seen for real.
I mean, right now they're shorting the market on purpose. So, I mean, all of this is insider trading going on. But now the bond market y'all saw was down. And see, the stock market, whatever. I don't play the stock market. Most Americans do not have the kind of money to buy as their, Orange Cheeto told them to do. Like, the most Americans don't have that kind of capital just laying around to go buy stocks, right? We don't play in the stock market. So, but the bond market, y'all, that's our mortgage loans. I mean, that's the stability. That's what people, when they're scared,
they go to the bonds because the bonds stay stable.
Because the bonds stay stable. The bond's not stable. So all these crypto bros and all these like wannabe day traders working off Robinhood and shit, thinking that they're like getting something. Yeah, like, yeah, you might have taken $100,000 and turned it into 21 million yesterday.
Yep.
But guess what? You're going to be that it's not going to mean you're not going to be able to wipe your ass with that.
Yeah, China's been looking for the opportunity to push America out of being
BRICS?
the world reserve currency
Yep.
for, I mean, a long time, but real hard since about 2012, somewhere
Yep.
around there.
Yep.
Yep.
And he will short the yen
and
for it.
we just gave them the best shot they'll ever have at it.
Yep.
Once we've isolated ourselves and the dollar has plunged enough, we've pissed off enough of our trade partners.
Yep.
They'll be happy to go ahead and switch it to the euro or something else.
Yep.
I'm sure the UK would love to because they were the world reserve currency before, and go back to the 1950s or whatever when it switched and see just
30s.
something like that. They had a huge. I mean, it was rough for them.
Yeah.
And it'll be worse for us.
Yep. Oh, worse for us now because look at like the inflation, like how much, like, you know what I'm saying? Like just the dollars today.
And just the increase in population since then.
Just
it'll be worse for us.
It'll be so much worse for us. And so this is, I mean, I'm like,
Yeah,
all just so doomsday right now.
Yeah, but if that happens,
it's just reality.
the dollar will become worth nothing overnight.
Yeah. So that's kind of where we are. There's just so much about this and what's going on. Like we haven't even touched the insider trading piece of this.
No.
From Congress and like what they're doing from the stock market. Don't even have time for that. Will have to be another day. But it's very scary, like, right now for a lot of people. As a small business owner myself, this roller coaster of tariffs is very difficult because, I can't, like, I guess I can, like, I'm planning trying to basically, put capital into buying and holding on to stock. But then, what happens if something really does happen and then people just aren't buying? Not just buying because we haven't even raised prices, but just because people are like, oh my God, we just have to, like, we just can't spend. I mean, my husband and I are even slowing down discretionary spending a lot.
Same.
So, I think everybody's starting to do that. And this, even I shared on my TikTok, this video with Laura Ingraham or whatever from Fox News.
Yeah,
and
I saw that.
do you see that?
Yeah.
They're starting to get it. They're like, oh shit, we're about to collapse the middle class. Oh my God, it's going to be nothing. We're going to be like Greece. Like nothing, like at one time years, I don't think it's like this as much anymore, but like peasants and ultra wealthy. Philippines, same thing. Peasant, dirt poor, or very, very wealthy with, you've got, a whole staff working for you and you don't even drive yourself anywhere. That is what America's going to turn into. And so, but the bulk of us are going to be poor. So that's that. But we do have something that we do need to just touch on and talk about, I think, just for our,
Yes. I know we are talking about some pretty heavy stuff right now and a little bit of a dark turn because we are amidst darkness right now. We are in a dark time. But there are some other things going on in Virginia Beach that are incredibly sad. And if you have been following the Kalos Coalition on any of our socials, you may have seen the public statement we put out about Nora Horwitz. Nora was a trans woman who lived here in Virginia Beach. She was 38 years old, and unfortunately, this past Sunday evening, while she was being held in custody at the Virginia Beach the Virginia Beach jail, under the custody of the Virginia Beach Sheriff's Office, she unalived herself. This is a tragedy for the trans community. It's a tragedy for the community of Virginia Beach. There are lots of factors that go into this, but one of the things that I think sticks out most to me is that she was a trans woman who was being held in a men's prison, in a men's facility, that she had been there for 22 months, that there were lots of ongoing questions that were undergirded her trial and a lot of different issues that were going on. And I feel strongly that our community has failed her, that has failed justice in this particular instance, not because she took her life, but because we allowed her to sit there for so long, and also because we weren't able to get to a resolution that would get her the mental health services that she needed today. I understand there were discussions about ways to get additional help, but there were circumstances related to assault. There were circumstances related to familial abuse and other sexual abuse and things that, to take someone like that, to take someone who is telling the court, that's telling the public, I am a survivor, I have survived, and then to take that woman and put her in a men's facility and lock her there for 22 months is an incredible trauma and an incredibly difficult thing to go through for any human being. And I wish that the powers that be had more compassion for her in this particular instance, because regardless of justice, regardless of what's right or wrong, a little more compassion, a little bit more being able to show up for trans and gender nonconforming people could have made a difference. It could have been different.
Right.
And I don't know if it means we could have stopped the tragedy of the initial crime, or we could have stopped the tragedy of her unaliving herself, but I do know that we could have been there in a more holistic way. But
Yeah.
anyways.
Yeah, I know. It's very sad. And, we had just gone to the jail and had a meeting, with Sheriff
Yes.
Holcomb. And had just been talking about Nora.
Yes.
But, and I had not even realized that much time had gone by since she was arrested. And so I haven't bothered to look at the press because on social media, because I just can't handle, I just know that the comments from the public would be way too triggering. So I haven't gone to look.
I think what is important now is that as a community, we call for an independent
I
investigation.
think that's,
I think that there's going to be the impulse to sweep this under the rug, to make this as this is an unfortunate situation or circumstance, to put the blame upon her alone. When I think that what we really need to do is take an accounting of how we handle these circumstances, because as we were discussing with Rocky, there are 4,000 to 6,000 trans people that live in Virginia Beach. If we're going to have a Virginia Beach jail, then we need to have systems in place that can better accommodate for these circumstances, not just because of Nora, but because of the incredible diversity of trans people and gender and all the different needs that we have. One of the things that we found out is that the Virginia Beach jail is, and this is a statewide policy, something that Rocky couldn't do, does not actually keep in their pharmacy cupboard things like hormone replacement therapy, estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, secondary, tertiary medications that are associated with that, androgen blockers, and so on. These things are not currently available, and the only way that they can be made available is if at the state level they actually authorize those sorts of things, and then they can be made available, and then they can actually be there for trans inmates and those folks, not just here at Virginia Beach Jail, but all across all regional and city jails across the state of Virginia. So what we were doing, and I wish there was some way that I could go back in time and let Nora know that there were people that cared. I wish that day that we had been able to walk into the jail and say, hey, can we go see Nora? But that wasn't an opportunity. That wasn't something that we could do. And I hope that regardless of the specifics of this incident, we can focus on advocating in the future to make sure that trans people are not incarcerated in a way that they are denied health care, where they are at risk of if they have not already been sexually assaulted, and they are not getting the care that they need. We can talk about mental health care. We can talk about the specific gender affirming care, medicines, those sorts of things that are being denied. But when it's all taken in sum, being left to sit in a men's facility, it becomes a larger picture of the systemic failure that so many trans people face in the carceral system, in the carceral state. And I know we can do better here in our city. I know we can do better in the state. I hope that our governor candidate, like Abigail Spanberger, I hope that when you win, Abigail, that you appoint people to the board of regional jails that will actually be able to sit down and analyze this with community, with different medical advisors and folks, and vote to make sure that all of the life-saving and necessary medications are available to our inmates at all time. That's one of the big things. There are other larger battles here at play, things about PREA, the Prison Reform and Elimination Act, the way in which we house and the way in which we treat prisoners. Some of that intersects federal and state and local ordinance and laws. But when it comes comes to just our local and state level, what can Virginia do? What can Virginia Beach do? What can our city council do? We can pull in, we can do a proper investigation. We can ask all the questions about reports of issues that she was having in the prison, about mental health issues or other lacks, other requests that were made. Even through things as simple as commissary. So we understand a larger picture of what her life was like, and then also provide better for our trans inmates, because regardless of whether or not trans people break laws or not, we still should be accommodated in all public accommodations.
That's correct. Yeah, no, 100%. And my little bells were going off in my head about the state at a state level for having a bill put together that allows for HRT and things like that to actually be included. Like, hello, some folks. So,
I believe after talking with a couple different advocates, and I'm not 100% sure on this, that we wouldn't even need a bill, that there is currently a board that's empowered. And this is what Rocky was talking about. He and the people at the jail can't make this determination, but the board of regional jails actually meets once a month. They're the ones that can vote and pass on what will or will not be within that pharmacy schedule, or what will or won't be in certain policies and how they interpret it policies.
Okay, so we could advocate to
this board.
To the board. Okay.
Right now, where I got stuck on, and this is something that I have not been able to confirm, is the makeup of that board, the political leaning of that board.
I was going to say it's going to be, so typically like appointments, we'll have to look at the appointments, but if the appointments are, so it could be a couple different ways, but the regional, it could be like gubernatorial appointments. All of them are appointed, but the governor's not going to know, that information comes from like political discourse within their party, right? And recommendations from like other people in legislature typically.
Exactly. And this is where I'm calling on Abigail Spanberger, because if Abigail is successful, and I know that she will be, to win the governorship, they are the person that will be invested with power through our state constitution and to put people on that board. So regardless of the makeup today, where if it's split or not, what we really want to impress to the trans and queer community is the importance of elections in so many small and myriad of ways, such as who are we going to put on these boards? Who is going to be on the oversight committee? Who is going to be in these positions of power? And when
that's a great point.
We find specific sites of resistance, specific things that we can advocate for, that's where I want to drill in right now. I don't know how to always show up. I show up as much as I can, and I need to show up more, and I want everyone listening to show up more. But I think also we must begin to ask ourselves questions about where do we show up and how effective is that going to be in showing up. And I very much want our state and our representatives and the people in power to represent us to actually listen. And sometimes I don't think our voices get to their ears in the same way. And sometimes they do get to their ears, but their ears are deaf. And we need to be thinking about this as a year over year, over decades, over a generation of a war, of a fight, because the people we're up against, the people who are pushing this stuff, the people that repealed Roe, are sitting for decades of a battle to fight these things, and we have to meet and exceed that energy.
Oh, yeah.
So
I think that's where we.
Yeah,
that's where we.
The reasons why we have more people incarcerated than any other country and things like that, those are reasons that have been happening for 100 years.
Oh, yeah.
And so, there's so many tiny knots that need to be undone before, we really, because that's the thing is, we have a society, we focus on incarceration. We don't focus on rehabilitation.
That's right.
The larger conversation about abolition gets lost when we get into these very small procedural arguments. So I can get why a lot of people are like, let us fight for abolition, because that's the real battle. That's the real heart. But regardless, I think that there is an amelioration of harm that can affect lives and people today over the course. And there's I don't think it's either or.
I think they're going to try to use
exactly it. It's not either or. It needs to be both, and the small things need to happen, because if we're being real, a lot of these people, a lot of people in leadership, a lot of people in America, it's a big mental leap still for them to make that connection to, hey, do you really think that Americans just commit more crimes than everybody else? Or do you think maybe there's something wrong with the fact that we incarcerate people at a higher rate than anybody else? But being able to admit that as Americans, we have, we were so eager to point out how North Korea has propagandized their whole people, and all of these other countries.
Donald Trump having a fucking military parade.
Yeah,
through
have
DC.
brainwashed people and all of that sort of stuff. And maybe it's just that American pride or whatever you want to say, but we do not acknowledge how we have been brainwashed into accepting and supporting things that just make no damn sense at all.
Yep.
Yeah, like the jails and the police and the prisons and the sheriffs and all the different. I mean, we're paying six-figure salaries, tens of millions of dollars for all these different facilities every single month and week. We could just be, I don't know, providing food, healthcare,
and then
we could be alleviating poverty directly,
Yep.
creating sorts of things that actually get to the primary source of criminality that push people into situations.
Into criminality.
And then we could be putting the excess that's remained beyond that, because there would be excess within the police and carceral state towards proper rehabilitation facilities that are
Correct.
compassionate. And that's the sort of abolition we talk about real policy solutions.
Yeah, that's
if you
right,
focus
it's
on
right.
rehabilitation and addressing poverty, you would have not only a lot less crime, but a whole lot less people in prison.
And I bet you
You wouldn't have
Yep.
wouldn't have an overpopulated prison and jail in every single city in the country.
Yeah, instead, like I often, I'll say I'm a
Yeah.
communist, but like I think I'm more of an abolitionist. I believe with what we're saying, I believe with the abolition of the carceral system, with, essentially reducing poverty, all of these things will bring us to a much better society. And just the conservative side to be so narrowly focused.
No, and that's the thing is, like, people want to talk about, you go back to this. I remember that old TikTok. How often do you think about Rome? I think about Rome when I'm talking with idiots, but and that's because of the way they think about Rome.
Mm-hmm.
And the way they think about the way society is modeled, or not really modeled after what it was. The beginning of Rome. Do you know how you garnished favor? It wasn't, all of these different little rulers in Rome and all of that, they were more or less equal. And more or less equal wealth and all of that sort of stuff. The way they separated themselves was by doing good things for the people. And then as that changed, and it became more about wealth, as Rome spread and took wealth from other countries and other places that they conquered, and the wealth inequality gap grew.
Right.
That is when Rome began to fall apart.
Well, yeah, because when you have a giant wealth gap, that is when society collapses.
You cannot have empathy. You cannot have a desire to truly improve society. You cannot have really any actual, feelings of affection for your community and neighbors, and be a billionaire.
No.
Those are not possibilities. If you're a billionaire and there's somebody that didn't eat dinner in your city because it wasn't available, if you're a billionaire and there's a homeless person in your city because there's not an available place for them to stay, and you went to bed with billions of dollars tonight, you're not a good person.
That's right.
I don't care how much you've been adored. I don't care what it is you invented or what it is you sold or what TV show you made. If you're a billionaire, if you go to bed a billionaire tonight with starving children and homeless people in your country, you have no heart, no empathy, and you are not a good person, period. There's just no way to do both.
There's no way to do both. That's right.
And the thing about wealth is that you only get it by accumulating it and not spending it. The thing, like, how else do you become wealthy other
Off
than
the backs of
Well, yes, we could always talk about the exploitation of labor and all sorts of
Mm-hmm.
things, the ways that mass is that they set up the exploitation to accumulate that.
Mm-hmm.
But the only way in which because we could talk about systems, the efficacy of those systems, but if you have $1 billion, you can give it away. It's very easy. And the reason why I bring this up is because I go to Bill Gates all the time. When he stepped down from Microsoft, he came out with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. It was worth like 800 million, 700 million. And he
Right.
said, I'm going to spend the rest of my life giving away all of my money. That's my job. My mission now is to give away all my money. Okay. And this is the context of, is there such thing as a good billionaire? Okay. Bill Gates is worth how many billions now?
literally, it's like the more money, like they're like, we're going to give away all this money, but how are you getting richer?
But you could talk about stock, we could talk about all that, but that comes down to the other part of this conversation, which is the unequitable systems that undergird the entire economy, the ways in which the capitalized and the owners of the real true owners of the means of production, the people who own BlackRock and Smart Street and all the different stockholders and the different investment companies, and the way in which seated amongst there is the middle class getting their little pensions and their things within all that. That's a myth of how we're all just engaging in an economy when we're all actually capitulating to owners.
I think that still proves my point, though. It's great that he decided to give all his money away, but he didn't.
That's exactly. That
he
does
absolutely
prove your point.
didn't. He just I am going to make myself look like a good person.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
While I still could have done exponentially more.
Absolutely.
Without any detriment to myself whatsoever.
Yes.
Correct.
I'd still be able to have every single thing I've ever wanted in life.
My kids would have everything that they could possibly need. My friends and family and the people around me immediately would not have. And then still, I could pay people to go get in food carts and trucks and go feed every single person in my city, and it wouldn't be a big deal. Remember, Elon Musk came out and he said, how much would it be to end world hunger? Was it, what did he say? 45, 46 billion?
Yeah.
How much are you worth today, Elon? Is it 400 billion? Why haven't you done it?
Right, exactly.
Why haven't you?
Why? Yeah, just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Oh, wait, you bought Twitter so that you could,
manipulate the public and be a king?
Propagandist.
If you really wanted to prove to me that if Elon, who's never going to listen to this, but hey, maybe, right?
Never know.
Elon Musk, if you ever wanted to actually prove to me that you were a good person, then solve world hunger.
He said he'd do it.
He said he'd do it.
He can do it. So do it. And if we're going to have any defense of billionaires, if there's even such a thing as a little bit of a good justification, even a tiny little shade of a reason, they have all these resources to do things that governments, individuals just couldn't do without this accumulation of resources.
Then do them.
That's what one person couldn't do. We could just end world hunger, but now you can.
Right.
So when are you going to do it?
So what are you going to do it? Oh, and then and you have Elon literally making what was that $5.6 billion contract from with Space Force to launch Space Force. I mean, he's literally, and there were two other bidders. He was the highest fucking bidder, and the government went with the highest bidder, and it was Elon Musk. Like, they are literally just playing in our faces. It's vile.
And they're not going to stop because there's still,
Yep.
how does this it? 50 million people?
Oh, yeah.
That are just eating it up. They're just too dumb to know that it's. Let me tell you something. If somebody ever has their cake and is eating it too, they're eating your cake. Wake up.
Yes.
And if they're eating your cake and they say, well, they're hungry, let them eat cake, that's when the guillotines come out. We know this historically. Sorry, y'all. We don't make the rules. That's just humanistic.
Right. That's right.
When you look around and wonder what happened to your cake.
That's right. Okay, well.
Sorry about cake metaphors, y'all. It just really fit. And I wanted to come really back just really quickly to touch on the issue when it comes to Nora, because there's some issues that are really super local and super personal. I've had a couple people reach out about what to do. I think what we need to do right now is keep your powder dry. There will be things that will be coming in ways that we can advocate in the future. I hope that you will follow the Kalos Coalition, because we're going to keep trying to find those sites of resistance, whether they be state boards, whether they be individual elections. And if you know someone else who is trans or gender nonconforming, who is in any sort of prison or jail or stuck in the carceral system in the state of Virginia, feel free to reach out so that we can put you in contact with our partners. You may or may not already be in contact with different partners, so that we can get whatever sort of advocacy we can go for the people who need it today. Because one thing that really is going to stick with me for the rest of my life is the fact that I could have that day gone and talk to her. And I wish so badly that I could have told her, regardless of all the circumstances, that there were people that cared about her in her city. I don't know if that would have could have made a difference, but I maybe that's something that you can do if you're listening, because these are our trans sibs, these are human beings, and we can't afford to forget them. And we also need to show up at school board meetings to not forget the kids either. But
yes,
I'm
I
sorry.
know. They're because they're the future.
They are the future.
And oh God, they can't turn out like some of us. So, anyways, well, Cody, you want to close this out?
Just, our message, keep your resistance strong, keep your energy up, keep your joy strong, right? Because trans joy will defeat hate, and punching a Nazi is not going to hurt either.
That's right.
Drink your water, take your meds. Take care. Bye.
Say something kind about yourself.
This podcast is brought to you in partnership with Collective Tattoo and the Kalos Coalition. We are listener supported, so if you like the show, please consider donating to us on Patreon at patreon.com/talkingtransparency. Like, share, and subscribe across social media, and be sure to visit our Linktree at linktree.com/talkingtrans.